With Hurricane Lee re-strengthening into a major hurricane in the northeastern Caribbean, we're going to be taking a look at where the storm may have its sights set on, whether that may be New England or Nova Scotia, and the differences in the modeling as far as wind gusts, track of course, wave heights, and rainfall. Let's jump right into it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. About 95% of you are not subscribed, so I would greatly appreciate it if you all would subscribe, or at least some of you. That would definitely help me out in the future. Starting off with the latest hurricane track model. You can see this is starting at around Thursday morning. The storm does miss Bermuda to the west, which is fortunate, although they will still see very significant wave heights. Then you see the majority of these models do take the storm almost directly north into the western tip of Nova Scotia. However, there are a few members that do take the storm closer to New England, especially the Maine coastline. And as we will see, this would be that scenario right here. As we will see on this next model, the European model, which does have a very good track record for these types of systems, that is exactly what it's producing. This is the latest Euro model. It could certainly change, no doubt about that. It could be changed by this afternoon, but this is the latest information we have. It misses Bermuda to the west, and then, unfortunately, by Friday evening, Saturday morning, it's battering Cape Cod with significant rainfall, significant beach erosion, especially on those coastlines south of Boston that are very susceptible to coastal flooding. This, if any storm, would produce massive coastal flooding in those areas. That storm then actually makes landfall just east of Portland, Maine, before moving northeast right along the Maine coast up towards Bangor and then north of Halifax, Nova Scotia into New Brunswick. This is a very concerning look, especially for the New England coastline, as this could bring significant, if not massive, catastrophic, potentially, erosion up there. I do not mean to sound sensationalistic in any manner, but this is a storm that could certainly bring those impacts to that area. Let's look at wind gusts. These are maximum wind gusts, albeit. As you can see, anywhere between 50 and 80 mile per hour wind gusts along almost the entire New England coast. That includes even places like Worcester, Massachusetts, up to Portland, Bangor, Maine, Boston getting wind gusts of 60 miles an hour potentially, and Cape Cod getting wind gusts as high as 90 miles per hour. Zooming into New England, you can see those wind gusts 90 miles per hour at Cape Cod as well as near Nantucket at 87 miles per hour. Even the eastern tip of Long Island could be seeing gusts as high as 50 to 60 miles per hour. Then as you go into southern Maine, wind gusts could generally be between 50 and 65 miles per hour, almost as high as 70 miles per hour possible. Fortunately, up in Nova Scotia, the wind gusts aren't looking to be as significant, as the storm will be weakening as it pushes north into that area. Now let's look at rainfall. Rainfall is not the biggest concern with the storm, but certainly a potential threat considering the flash flooding that has been ongoing in the past day or two in central New England. So this would certainly add insult to injury in those areas. Generally anywhere between 3 and 5 inches of rain along the coast from Cape Cod to Boston, Portland, Maine, Bar Harbor, or as you might say, Bahaba up there. That was probably very cringy, but you gotta include it. Anyways, up in Portland, up in Bangor, Maine as well, probably about 3 to 4 inches of rain, potentially more. As you work your way west, those totals do drop off significantly. Anywhere between maybe a half an inch in Springfield, Massachusetts, probably almost nothing in New York City. But there is another part of this, and that is wave heights. And this is the biggest concern of any with this storm. As you can see, looking at the Outer Banks, wave heights could potentially be as high as 15 to 16 feet on the Outer Banks. Even if it's only 10 feet, that's going to cause serious flooding. So even if we're just looking at 8 to 10 foot waves there, you often see roads get completely inundated and actually blocking off access to the rest of the Outer Banks. And we could certainly see that going into this weekend. Heading north into Ocean City, Maryland, Seaside, New Jersey, still looking at waves as high as potentially 6 to 8, 10 feet possibly. And then Long Island, looking at wave heights right there, potentially as high as 10 to 11, maybe even 12 feet, especially on the eastern tip of Long Island. Going into New England, though, this is certainly where the most of the concern is for wave heights, beach erosion, coastal flooding, of course. That is where the concern is. Looking at those South Boston suburbs, which are very susceptible to flooding in these types of events, it is no doubt. Once you look right there, you could be seeing wave heights as high as 10 to 15, even 20 feet along Cape Cod potentially, and even up towards the southern tip of Nova Scotia. So certainly wave heights are the biggest concern out of Hurricane Lee. I will say by this time, it probably will not be a hurricane once it makes landfall. So while we do have a major hurricane right now, it is very likely that it'll weaken, if not to a tropical storm, perhaps maybe a category 1, but more than likely a tropical storm, and could be a post-tropical storm by the time it makes landfall. Post-tropical basically means it's lost some of its tropical characteristics, especially you see that once storms get into the westerlies, and then at that point it just becomes an ordinary coastal system, but it's all in termination really, and it could still have the same exact impacts as a regular tropical storm or category 1 hurricane. Alright everybody, thank you for watching. If you haven't checked out my winter outlook videos and potential storm tracks, that would be great if you were to check them out. If not, that's alright too. Please slap a like on this video. Once again, this is a small channel that I'm looking to grow in the future, and I won't be able to do that without your help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.